Speaking of interviews, we got another one coming for you right now. Joins us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. He is Greg Smith, national recruiting analyst for Rivals. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Smith Rivals. Mr. Nebraska, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be back with you.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Greg Smith's been down there in Lincoln for quite some time. That's how this relationship of his and myself, and he came on the show a couple of times here in studio with Gary Ellerson, myself back in the days, and we've been friends ever since. So let's talk about the Wisconsin Badgers. Before the season, I said maybe 5 wins, somewhere in that area. I didn't think they'd be bowl eligible through first 2 games. I still don't think they're going to get probably more than 5 wins. What have been your thoughts so far? I mean, transfer portal quarterback Billy Edwards gets hurt, so they have to go to the backup. Now they get ready for Alabama and Tuscaloosa this week in week 3. I don't see how they win that one. What do you make of this team?
Yeah, I think that they're still tracking about the way that we thought early in the season. I don't know if you thought coming into the season that they were going to struggle to make bowl eligibility, then I don't know if you saw anything in those first 2 games that made you change your mind, right? I think that's being fair. I think their first test to be able to change your mind is this weekend. But it's a tall task. Like, that was going to be a tall task to go down to Tuscaloosa and win that game.
But it's not as tall.
It's not as tall. No, on one hand, it's not as tall because now, they're not obviously the Nick Saban Alabama, right? And we saw them lose to Florida State. They look mortal, right?
Yep.
But on the flip side of that, I could make the argument that now they're kind of been slapped into being awake after that loss against Florida State.
True.
And, you saw what they put on with whichever cupcake they played last week. And they put a big number up on them. And so we'll see, how ready they are for another home game with Wisconsin coming to town. But the Badgers should look at this as a huge opportunity for them to be able to say, no, we're better than what people like us think of them right now. And they've got a shot. It's a better shot than you would have thought when this game was put on the schedule years ago. But it's still going to be very difficult to go down there and win.
Now, I'm trying to wrap my head around what I saw you tweeting out earlier, and others are tweeting it out as well. So if I'm a recruit and I get brought into the Middle Tennessee State Badger game, I can't say I'm all that impressed or overly thrilled by the idea of going to watch the Badgers at Middle Tennessee State, especially after that football game was still a football game into the second half of that football game on top of everything else. But yet it appears that these recruits were all pretty happy and they some notable guys there.
Yeah, this is something that actually, and I have been tracking it really since the off season, like recruits. And this, I understand where you're coming from here about being surprised by this, but recruits have been very, very positive, even leading into the season, about what the Badgers could do, not only for this season, but into the future with Luke Fickell and staff. Like they are still at this point very much all in on what Luke Fickell is doing. And you mentioned some of the notable guys there. You had Cole Ryder, who was there, who was a 4-star prospect for us on the Rivals industry ranking. One of maybe their very top player on the board in the class of 2027, a Wisconsin native and offensive lineman that you've got to keep home. I've got a prediction on the recruiting prediction machine, and for him to pick Wisconsin here down the road, he was probably the headliner for the weekend. There's another kid from in-state, Isaac Miller, who's a borderline 4-star edge out of Waukesha, I believe. He's another kid that is, trending that way, even though he's got interest from schools like Miami's and others around the country. They're doing a very good job on the recruiting trail. And like I said, people still believe in kind of what Luke Fickell is selling out there.
How? Tell me how. What sales pitch is he giving these kids based on what everybody has watched the last 2 years?
I think they still believe in his ability to kind of build a program and develop players, even though what you would say. See, this is what I was saying. I was just about to say it. What you would say is we haven't seen that at Wisconsin at all. But he's got a history of being able to do it.
Cincinnati was years ago.
We just haven't seen it at Wisconsin. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you.
He'd be good at poker, I guess. I mean, there is no. First of all, let's go over a couple of things. One, He has no clue what to do on offense. He has no clue of how to recruit and actually build a quarterback in that system. We're on 3 portal quarterbacks, all of which have been hurt to this point, and more portal players behind him. Danny O'Neal, another portal player that had to start this last week. So that's my first issue. The second issue in all of this is, man, Greg, I mean, you're not that young. Barry Alvarez, Brett Bielema, Paul Chris, man, you'd see Badgers on day 1 of the NFL draft. You see Badgers on day 2 of the NFL draft on a regular basis. There's not a lot of day 1 talent currently. The one kid that they thought they had at corner ends up getting into a dispute and a fight to go to Miami with withdraws. The Badgers end up in this whole big lawsuit and everything else. That was the guy that they had up until that point. He's gone. And now you look at this roster. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who that guy is right now on this roster where you go, oh, yeah, that's a first-round pick. I don't see one.
Yeah, those are two very important things that they are going to have to figure out if this tenure is going to continue and they're going to continue to have kids to be excited about the program. They're going to have to figure out those two things, quarterback and the NFL draft. Because you're right, the drop off in what they've been sending to the league is pretty significant, especially on the lines of scrimmage and at linebacker, right? We are so used to seeing guys from linebacker kind of make their mark. We saw one on Monday Night Football last night with the Vikings running around as well. And so those guys just don't seem to be, anywhere in the fold right now. And then at quarterback, like at some point, you are going to have to find a high school quarterback that you've identified for your system that can then run that system, even if you have to take some lumps in the interim. But the problem is that do you have time to take those lumps in the interim now that you're a few years into this thing? Was the time to do that, 2 years ago, right? Like it's a tricky situation for where they are right now. But those are two very important things for them to figure out moving forward.
Back in the day, I believe it was Gary Anderson who did not work out very well here. But back in the day, Gary Anderson argued that you could take that Badger helmet, put it down anywhere in the country, and people and kids would know it and respect it, and you could have a conversation about trying to bring a kid in. After what we've seen here at Wisconsin the last couple of years, do you feel like that's the same case right now if you were to take that Badger helmet into a living room in Iowa, take that Badger helmet into a living room in South Dakota, Hawaii, all over the place? Would you get that same respect from a kid?
You would get that respect in the region where you first started, in that Iowa. Midwest region in Iowa, in the Dakotas, obviously.
Yeah, but man, Minnesota, I think has more recruiting swag right now, even in the Midwest.
I don't know about that. I would disagree there. Minnesota is a weird one because I just don't think that they care about having recruiting swag.
That's always good.
They're going to have those guys that are way under the radar, and you want to talk about someone that can develop guys to get them to the NFL. PJ Fleck, we give him a lot of crap for a lot of things, and he earns it very much. But one thing he does do is develop guys that gets them to the NFL that did not have very high recruiting rankings, right? So you got to.
He's their version of Bielema.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I don't want to bring up anything sore, but he's doing a fine job at Illinois and what he's been able to do there, because it basically looks like what he had at Wisconsin. Just in his next step is to keep those elite guys in Illinois home. He's had a real problem doing that as those kids now are going to the SEC. But back to the original question, in the Midwest, I think that Badgers helmet still resonates and it still has some weight. The problem is it's hard to rely on just that talent for Wisconsin. You're going to have to go down to Florida and spot recruit down there and pull guys. You're going to have to go to your Texas, out to California sometimes. Now that the Big Ten is actually out in California, you can pitch to those kids. Hey, mom and dad will be able to see you out here a few times a year. But they're struggling in that area right now. They're also, while I'm on it, they're also playing defense on some of the good commits that they have right now. Amari Latimer, every week I feel like I'm hearing from a kid on their list that is still being heavily pursued by other schools. And so they're going to have to continue to play defense on that as well.
So they aren't bowl eligible last year. They're going to not probably be bowl eligible this year. And everybody around here thinks he's getting fired. He's not getting fired. So
no, that buyout is just
Fickle's going to get 26, and I think he's got to compete and be in contention for a playoff spot in 26 because their schedule will be significantly easier next year than it is this year. This is like one of the toughest schedules in college football right now.
Yes.
Top 3 at least. So from that perspective, he's going to have a shot next year. But my question is, does it even matter? Because if he loses some of these recruits that he already has and the cupboard is even more bare going into next year, that still may put him even farther behind.
Yeah, the trick is though how many of the freshmen on that commitment list are going to be able to help them be what you just said in playoff contention next year? They're gonna either way, regardless they keep these kids or not, and they've got some good ones. They keep those kids or not, they're gonna have to go heavy into the portal to get guys that they can kind of plug holes with and hope to then get some of those, NFL draft pick type guys. The problem is, as we started off talking about, they've actually had a hard time doing that, right? Getting the right guys. They've gone into the portal and got a bunch of guys, but they've just been a bunch of guys. They have not been guys that are going to end up having their names called in the NFL draft and go up there dapping and hugging Roger Goodell. We haven't seen that yet. They're going to have to turn that up in a big way this offseason.
But Greg, is that talent evaluation? Talking with Greg Smith, national recruiting analyst for Rivals here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Is that evaluation, or is that we can't afford everybody that we want?
Oh, you hit on a key thing there. It's a big part of we can't afford the guys that we really need to get. So we just had an article come out a little while ago. I think Pete Nakos put it out with what guys are being paid at wide receiver, right? And you see some of those transfers. You look at the kid down at Auburn that's being paid $1 million. Nebraska, who we often talk about because of me, has 2 wide receivers that they brought in as transfers that are being paid $800,000 this year, right? Is Wisconsin playing ball in that area, right?
I don't see it.
And so if they're not, then it's very difficult to get those types of guys that are going to come in and make those impact plays that you're going to need to be able to take that next level. That is something that is going to be, or you're going to have to go the other way and do a longer build and get those good high school recruits. But now we're up against time, right? Like you don't have the time to have those kids develop the old school way. And so they're kind of in a tricky situation when it comes to the immediate results that they're going to need for next year. Because I completely agree. Nothing's happening after this year.
Can they win recruiting battles, promising freshmen playing time, promising no red shirt?
It can help, but the problem is okay if you're a kid that says, okay, yeah, you're gonna play me, but what are we gonna win? Like you're gonna get some of that. You'll get some kids that way, and that will definitely help because you can always do and it's tried and true. You can always go, hey, Sparky, you can come in and play quarterback for us right away. You're gonna get all the shine and all the playing time. We need you to be the guy that comes in and turn this thing around. That always works, right? That'll always resonate with some kids, but then you're also gonna have that same kid that turns around and say, okay, well, who else is coming along with me as well?
That's right. Yep. And then it's chain recruiting, right? Then you need him to help you recruit the wide receivers and everybody else. Then you need to figure out how to keep them all together so they don't get bought up by everybody else on the recruiting trail.
That's true. Miami doesn't come sweep in on you and
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Greg Smith, national recruiting analyst over there at Rivals. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Smith Rivals. One last one before we go. How good is Nebraska?
They're pretty good. We won't find out until that Michigan game in a couple of weeks. They play another cupcake this week. They played Akron, who's one of the worst teams in college football this past week. Like, let's not be shy about that one. But they're kind of following that Indiana model from last year, right? Like you scheduled nobody really in the out of conference. So Cincinnati was okay. You scheduled nobody in the out of conference. You build up your confidence, and then hopefully by conference play, you can just keep it rolling. But if Dylan Raiola is the type of quarterback that we thought he was coming into college, they've got a shot to actually contend for double-digit wins this year because their schedule, the Badger schedule is very difficult. Nebraska's schedule is the exact opposite. And so because of that, they've got a shot to put up a big win total this year.
There he is, Greg Smith. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Smith Rivals. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk throughout the season.
Hey, always good to talk to you, man.
You bet you. Take care. There he is, Greg Smith. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Smith Rivals. Joining us, Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all.